5:29. We are live. This is in your face. So help me. I think Eric is here.
I'm seeing the teachers. I'm seeing Sofa, but she probably.
Sofa is upstairs. All the teachers are. Rich is here. I didn't see Miss Gay, but she's up there.
I saw her with her daughter. Iggy's gonna be here later. Iggy's gonna be here later. Iggy is gonna be here later.
Be right on.
Good night. Yeah. You ask any questions? Yeah. Take that. So you don't have to. All right. I think we can get started. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here as part of the principal selection process for the LSC Peirce School for International Studies. I don't think I've said that. I don't know Peirce. We truly appreciate the presence of our students, parents, and teachers and staff. Your voice and input are essential in helping us choose the right leader for our school community. We're pleased to welcome Matthew Jones McCann, who is here to share his vision for Peirce and to respond to a series of questions that reflect the priorities and values of our community. A couple of items to ensure a fair and consistent experience for candidates. Please note the following. Each candidate will have approximately 15 to 20 minutes to speak and present their vision. We will then have specific questions that were pre-selected based on feedback from the Peirce community. And we are sharing a QR code that will take you to a feedback form. So you should see it either in the back of the room there, or some of you may have a copy of that with you. The feedback will be critical in helping the LSC make this important decision. So thank you for your cooperation in helping us maintain a respectful and equitable process. And with that, please join me in welcoming Matthew Jones McCann.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Matt Jones McCann. I'm excited and I'm honored to be standing in front of you as one of the two finalists for Principal of Peirce. I'm also wanting to thank the LSC, as well as any teacher, anyone who was not on the LSC, but served as part of the process. I know it is very time consuming. I know that It is hours of behind the scenes work as well as hours of actual LSC meetings to get to this point. You have a large community, you have a diverse community, and it shows that you want to listen and take in every viewpoint through the process, from looking at your resumes all the way through a large round one of people around me. And I really appreciate all that you put into making sure you have heard everyone in the community. I also want to thank all of you for being here tonight, as well as those tuning in. You have lives and jobs, yet you are still here. You showed up because you care about your next school as well. So thank you for being here. Okay. So, a little about me. I have been in Chicago since 2015, and right now I live in Old Irving Park with my husband and my 2-year-old. We went here in the back today. And when I used to go through my decision-making processes as a teacher, as a school leader, it used to be what is best for my students. Now it's not only what's best for my students, but it's what's best for the future and my future CBS student one day. So this becomes even more meaningful to me as she grows up and approaches pre-K and kinder in the next couple of years. So a little about my journey. So I'm from Ithaca, New York, and I grew up in a small town. So about 128 kids in my graduating class. That was the largest class to graduate. And we followed our group all the way from kinder through 12th grade. There were no other elementary schools. It was one elementary, one middle, one high school. So with a small town, we have a lot of opportunities to take on leadership. So some of my first opportunities in leadership came from me being a band counselor, both saxophones. So I, in middle school, got to be a junior counselor, and then in high school was the senior counselor, and then through college would come back and support as well. So that was my first steps into it, my first steps into education, really. That inspired me to go on into undergrad, a big 13 minutes from home. To get to college, and all close to home was ranked one of the top music ed programs in the country, so I just had to go, even though I was applying to all over the country, ready to get out of my hometown. That's just how it played out. So once I got to Ithaca College, that's where I really got the foundations for education, where I got to step in front of students, in front of choirs, in front of general music classes, and I got to teach all grade levels, from pre-K all the way through 12th grade. Private schools, public schools, all of the above. So from there, once I graduated, I went on to my first teaching gig at Cherry Valley Springfield Elementary Art School District. And I had to correct myself because it was a pre-K through 12th grade building. So I thought I had 128 classes there, they graduated 40 students. But there I got to teach the county dairy princess. We had a tractor school day on the last day of school. It was my first gig where I got to learn how to be a teacher with all ages. So I was teaching pre-K through 5th grade general. I was teaching elementary band, middle school choir, high school choir, spring musical, varsity softball coach, whatever I could do, I was taking it on. It was a small town, so it was all hands on deck. And I just gave that up. So after that, I actually returned back to Ithaca College, where I got my master's, and I got to take on a supervisor role, where I got to oversee the junior student teachers. So 5 days out of the week, I was in public and private elementary schools, supervising junior teachers, providing feedback to them on how they can better their teaching, as well as weekly coaching with them. And I would say that's where I really fell in love with coaching and mentoring teachers, and then now teacher leaders I get to mentor as well. And I would say that is a huge passion, it's something I really learned to love throughout the years. So upon finishing my master's, I stepped into Chicago. The first time ever in Chicago was a moving job. I had never been here before that. And I landed a job at Elementary, which was my first taste of the IEP. So they were working on their IB middle years program at NYP candidacy. So while the time I was there, we got authorized in the IB. And then I took on everything, just like I have everywhere else in my journey so far. I took on musicals. I did 2 musicals a year. I was harnessing my costume moms. I was harnessing my set design crew. I was working with anyone I could and supporting everything I could, from ILT to just sitting in one of my best friend's rooms as a second grade teacher during my prep and watching her teach and being amazed with what she could do with her second graders. So then throughout that, my principal, who is one of my biggest mentors to this day, I talk to her even today, she really encouraged me to get my education leadership degree and my principal endorsement. So, pandemic hits. I don't have any musicals, any rehearsals. I'm not at school till 6 p.m. anymore. So why not do another degree? So that is where I got my ed leadership degree and stepped into the role of IB primary years coordinator. So as an IB PYB coordinator, we were just in the IB for the first time with the PYB. We were already in IB. It was my turn to get fifth grade teachers on board. So that is where I really had that first big leadership role for quite a few years and worked towards our authorization in the PYP, which they are now. Fell in love with IB so much that I did a little year stint in central office as an IB program support specialist, meaning that I went to all of the IB elementary schools, including Peirce, and supported all of the IB coordinators in the district. So from Kilburn and Peirce being some of my hardest work, to school that was pretty much under the bridge to Indiana. I was all over the city. I got to see all the different demographics, work with so many different people, different faces, learn so much about how this district runs, not just in my academic experience, but how it's a school or the district-wide view. But I miss community. I miss having my peeps, my school, my mascot, my school colors, my principal, my teachers. So that is where I ended with James, me and Peirce and IB World School, where I'm currently at. That is where I found my family again. And I've had the opportunity to lead and to grow my leadership over these past 2.5 years. So my principal, he doesn't treat me as an AP that's just in charge of one thing, but he really treats me as a co-leader that has been able to develop all of the domains in the principal competencies. So I really appreciate that role and feel ready to take on this next step as principal. Which leads me to what I've been actually presenting with my vision. So when I was thinking about what is my philosophy, what is my vision, it just kept boiling down to this really simple sentence. It sounds simple. All children deserve their best. Sounds simple, but it's a heavy lift. Because when we say all children, we are thinking about our children with disabilities. We are thinking about our children that are performing above and need to be pushed farther. We are thinking about our children of all different cultures and races, of different gender identities. All children deserve their best. So that's where I'm coming with my 3 approaches: the head, the heart, and the hands. So when we think about the head, it's about thinking about how we are pushing our students academically. When we're thinking about the heart, how we're developing our students social emotionally. And then the hands, the sprinkle, the cherry on the top, they've been empowered, they have the agency to take action and put it into use now. That's what it is. So through this holistic approach, we'll start with the head. So over these past 2.5 years, we have the whole district was charged with adopting a highly qualified curriculum by school year 26, so this year. So we've been adopting Skyline curriculum, and I say that with an asterisk that I'm not here to just tout one curriculum. That is a school-based decision. So I'm not wanting to come in and change a curriculum. It's something that a whole school, a team, all voices have a say in. But that is what we chose and what we adopted, and through that, we've seen a lot of growth on our iReady scores, on our IAR scores, and that's really a big focus for the head of the academic side. So really thinking about standards aligned, high quality curricula for all of our students is something that I'm committed to. With that comes right presence. So making sure that our students with disabilities are also getting those opportunities. So if a student is in a cluster room, do they have the opportunities to engage with their gen peers? A cluster room, for those that don't know, is a maximum of 13 students, and it's for more severe disabilities, where they require more support with a special ed teacher and special ed classroom assistants in the room. So instead of just being in their room, where can we engage with our peers outside of our room? If a student is in a resource room, how are we teaching them and setting those goals to work towards inclusion? So that our students are the least restricted environment we can get. Because our hope is that we're developing our students to be independent and successful when they go to high school and beyond. Also looking through the IB lens, making sure that we have inquiry at the front of our approaches, that we're focused on conceptual understanding, so not just skills, but also what is that overall concept and how we can apply it to different things. Our essential skills, so skills are so important, so our approaches to learning and our approaches to teaching are things that all IB teachers already know, and that's something that we use to empower our students through social skills, communication skills, research, thinking, self-management are all skills that are important. And then language and literacy for all. So making sure that if Spanish is our second language, that all students have access to it. For those in the TBE, the traditional bilingual programs, or TBI, that they're also developing English, and working towards that bilingualism or multilingualism. Next is the heart. So for the heart, it comes down to a few things. First, the learner profile attributes. With the IB, the learner profile attributes are these 10 attributes that follow you pre-K all the way through 12th grade. And that's really a well-rounded, holistic approach for all our students, and making sure that we are creating a whole human, not just someone that is a test score, but someone who can be balanced, someone who can be reflective, someone who can be a communicator and caring. Such important skills once you leave the school building to still have. Restorative practices. So this year I'm the restorative practices person at my role. So between discipline and just restorative approaches, that is something that I'm passionate about, and making sure that we are building up our students and prioritizing their dignity. So if they make that mistake, they have a chance to fix it. They get the skills to not do that again. They get the understanding to not do it again. That are very harm and able to move forward with whoever they were that had an obligation or whatever the situation was. I think is really important. A school-wide SEL. So it could be second step, it might be something else. Responsive classroom is also something that we use at our school. With morning meetings and with advisory periods, and that's a part of the SEL building and community building with our students as well. And then also well-being initiatives, such as staff outings or student outings or whatever it is that brings us together and prioritizes our well-being, so we can continue to grow as learners as well. And then intercultural understanding are all part of the art. So making sure that we are not only understanding other cultures, but modeling it for our students, teacher to teacher, teacher to parents, admin to teacher, admin to parent, whatever the relationship is, we need to model that for our students so that they can use it with each other on the playground, at recess, in the lunchroom, where some of those unstructured times happen. And then the hands. Like I said, this is the chair at the top. Once we build up our students, it's time to take that action. So with the PYP unit plans, there is that action component that can be embedded right in your units, and then there might be a service component that can be embedded, and then have that culminating experience in 5th grade with the PYP exhibition, and then in 8th grade with the NYP community projects. These are all ways we're building our students up to take ownership, to take action about things they're passionate about, things they're learning about, things they're curious about, and maybe working to top. Which aligns with the IE's mission of creating global citizens to make the world a better place. So those 3 things come with, how do we get there? So I just have a couple commitments for you. So I commit to being independent. I think it's really important for leaders to not commit to saying they know everything and changing things right away about listening. So part of my 90-day plan is listening tours, making sure I do this at all of the parent groups, all of the different teacher groups, student groups, like student council, or just having talking circles in homerooms, and getting to hear everyone's vision for the school before we make change. Leading with the students at the forefront. It's hard to fight about a decision because your students have interest in what you're meant. So I think that's a really important thing that without our students, we wouldn't be here, right? We wouldn't have jobs, we wouldn't be at school right now because you have a child. So our students need to be the priority in all of our decision making, no matter what it's about. Leading with a model. I already did sort of describe that with our historic practices as well as intercultural understanding. But you have to practice what you preach. I'm not here to tell teachers one thing and then hide. I want to be there alongside them in the trenches, leading as a model, so that I understand what our challenges and how we can improve. Leading with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this aligns right with the CPS's inner core of identities, relationships, and community. So ensuring that all voices are heard, that we're not just making decisions based on one voice or one group, but that we really do take time, just like your LSC has taken the time through this process to hear everyone's viewpoint and what they want to find in that principle. It's really important that we do that with our decision making. Leading with the IE framework. There's no secret I think by now I'm an IE nerd. So that's one of my commitments that I will continue to lead with that IE framework. Leading with strong systems and structures. As much as I love the IE, I do love schedule. I'm our master scheduler at our school. So any schedule that is from a schedule for assembly to the special ed schedules to the CHAD schedules, whatever the schedule is, I probably have my hands on it at one point. And I believe this is almost the first movement, because without these strong systems in place, we can't really build from there with anything else. Teachers need to feel safe, students need to feel safe, secure, structured, so they can continue to build the rest of it. And then lastly, I commit to leading with my authentic self. I like to have fun. I like to be there with the teachers. I don't want to be hiding. I like to dress up. Whatever it is, this week we even got slides, that's what the photos there. For our fundraiser, the highest raising group got to slide the admin. So whatever it is, I commit to use my authentic self. So that's a little bit about my vision and about me. If you are interested in my 90-day entry plan or the slide deck that I just shared, there are a couple links there. But once again, thank you for having me, and I can answer your questions.
This over here. You get closer to him a little bit.
I'm sitting here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much for this. So we will now go through the series of questions, and I will get started. How do you plan to manage staffing and scheduling to effectively support our diverse learners, as well as coordinate IEP and 504 meetings and students' needs? I can repeat the question if you need me to.
Well, a good first question, because this is what I'm in charge of right now at my school. So I am the hiring committee, at least to start at my school. So when it comes to staffing and scheduling, I am always looking for highly qualified candidates. That is definitely one of the first things I'm looking for. So do they have that certification? Do they have experience? Do they have references that can speak to that? I think are really important. And then when it comes to special ed specifically with scheduling, it's really important to prioritize all of our students and their IEP minutes. So looking at creative ways in the schedule, which I've been able to do a lot. So this might mean that there might be a 7th and 8th grade or a 6, 7, 8 resource room together to maximize our teachers with students is something that I already do to make that happen, but I also think that we are always working within inside the limits. So one of those expectations is it's not 4 years outside of the age ranges. So you can't have an 8th grader and a 2nd grader in the same room together just to meet their minutes. And then the last part was about IEP and 504s and how you schedule those meetings, right? So I work closely, you'll almost find me daily in our clinician's office and our case manager's office. Those are my peeps. I have learned to love all, I would say, 15 clinicians and our 2 case managers because we work so closely together to schedule these. So ensuring that we are in compliance with the deadlines. So if it's that year or if it's 3 days before that they need to share out those IEP drafts, whatever it is, we have a shared tracker and we have that shared with everyone. So that tracker shows when the student's IEP is up for the year and when we need to have that meeting again. So it's just that transparent way that we can all communicate with each other because we're all in front of students a lot of the day and it's hard for a whole team to find a lot of time to sit down. So making sure that there is that place we can always reference and from there sending out the reminders, the meetings are all ways to keep everyone in communication with each other.
At Peirce, we have a significant LGBTQIA+, including trans and non-binary, student population and community. How would you handle members of the school community who refuse to accept or respect students for who they are?
I think it's always important to go back to our core values as a school. So as an IB school, as CPS as a district, those are commitments that are already there and making sure that all students are valued, all students are seen. So when it comes to handling pushback, I'm not afraid to stand my ground and always relate back to what is best for students. So I'm not here to put down one group of students. I think all students should shine and have the opportunity to shine within the building. So if there's a certain demographic that is experiencing that, that's when I want to listen. I want to learn, meet people where they're at, have that really critical conversation, hopefully come to an understanding, and maybe the understanding is agree to disagree in the end. Hopefully we can get past that and realize that we're here for what's best for our students, and all students are welcome at this school.
How will you work to close academic gaps for students who experience systematic inequality?
Thank you. So once again, going back to my 90-day plan, I think the listening tour is a good first start to hear what the needs are within the school. What students are feeling, what families are feeling. I know you have 8 different parent groups here, so getting to hear from all of the different affinity groups and what matters to them and what they're experiencing, because that's not my experience, it's theirs. I want to hear what is the experience, what is that desired outcome, and what we can do to work together is the first step. I also think that it's a part of visibility within not only our teaching staff, but our curricula. So we want to find a curriculum that represents the students in front of us. I also think that the IB is great teaching. So when it comes to building up our students and student agency and their voice and choice, that's already allowing students to follow their passions and find who they are. But more from the structured side is also monitoring our multi-tiered support systems, right, our MTSS. So making sure that we are tracking our tier 2s and 3 students, keeping track of that, and following through with appropriate interventions, appropriate supports from our interventionists or what other adults in the building that might service those needs are really important. When it comes to our Spanish speakers, I know something we've done at our school is also just prioritizing that their education is in their native language. So for the past 2 years, we have had a homeroom that is Spanish as the first language of instruction. So in kinder, it's the 80-20 model, where it's 80% Spanish, 20% English, and then in first grade, 70-30. So that is something we've already seen huge gains on. Our kinder teacher last year, their iReady scores just skyrocketed from previously when she had to teach in English as the primary language. So valuing their language, teaching with their language, and then working towards that multilingualism as they get older is also a way. And if we don't have the students, offering it as an immersion, that's something we have also done to make sure that room is still filled. So that students still get their native language, and then other students are immersed and they're building up their second language if that's of interest too. So that's one of the ways we've done it.
How will you support immigrant families, especially families who may be undocumented? Specifically, how will you ensure that Peirce remains a safe refuge for students and families in fear of persecution by government officials?
That's real. That is real right now, and we're experiencing it at our school too. Part of my plan is, and it's in the as soon as possible section, so not in the first 30 days, but within that first day or first week, is having those meetings and making connections with our safety, security, our network safety security, any school or not school, community organizations that all already know the emergency management protocols, as well as our boots on the ground in the community and able to monitor who is around our building right now. So once we make those connections, we're able to make more of an educated approach to how we would handle a situation. So I want to always maintain calm and then stick to the plan. I think that's really important for situations like this, that we're not here to create chaos, but we're here to make people feel safe. So when it comes to if someone is feeling that that there's ice outside the building, that we need to first off validate and make sure that that is true. And if that is true, then we are sticking to our emergency plan that's already in place and not going off script. That's why we practice it. We practice for permanence, right? So that way we continue to do that. So knowing then that we could go into a soft lockdown where there's nobody in, nobody out, but business as usual in the building. Or if students are outside, they know to either come inside, or if it's closer to where they are, going to a safe location. So these are all really important things to know from day one or that first week, so that I know what the approach is at the school, as well as making connections with our school-wide safety team that all schools should have too. So from there, if we already have that plan in place, I think it's always just reinforcing, one, that we celebrate all individuals at our school. All are welcome here, and that when you are in this building, you are safe, you are secure, you are fed, you are all of the above, and that you matter just as much as anyone else in the world.
What have you done in the past for consequences for quote-unquote bad behavior?
Can you say it again? I couldn't understand, sorry.
What have you done in the past for consequences for bad behavior?
The term bad behavior, I think, is an interesting one. I don't like to look at it through that lens. Maybe undesired behaviors. I never want someone to feel they're bad because maybe the behavior that did happen, they thought was right or they didn't know better. So a part of that restorative approach is listening and learning first where that student is at, and from there creating a plan to fix that behavior, repair that harm, going back to sort of what I said with the restorative practices. That is a huge approach. If we're just looking at punitive approaches, right, we know that, a timeout for a little one is not always going to work, right? Because that they just realize, oh, I just have to sit here for 2 minutes and then I can do it again, right? We need to educate on what you did that was wrong, how you can repair that relationship or that issue to move forward. And that's a part of preserving their dignity too, right? Because if we are able to still see them as human, oh, you made a mistake, this should be a safe space to make those mistakes and grow from there, then I think we can continue to move forward. And with that, it's also looping in the whole team. So this isn't just a me or just a restorative practices coach position. This is everybody on the team. So the students have a say in how they're going to make this better. The teachers have a say in how they're going to support it. The families are brought into it and how they can support as well. So I think it's taking that whole wraparound approach that supports our students in growing.
Thank you. Along those lines, how will you handle bullying and disciplinary issues at the school?
I think it's really important to understand what bullying is first, at least according to the student code of conduct, right? We all come in with our own version of what bullying is. But in the CBS Student Code of Conduct, in order to log that as bullying, there are 4 criteria. So I think the first step to that is making sure that we educate all of our community on what bullying is as defined by CBS. There might be some bullying behaviors, but not true bullying that we see, right? There might be unkind behaviors. So once we have rolled that out, and I think that's something that a climate and culture team could take on. That's something that I know with all of your peer groups, I've heard that it's a passion to some of those groups as well. So looping in some of those voices too. As well as I think that our student council or student voice group are a huge part of that too. So they're the ones that are out there during those times where it's happening, right? They can make a huge difference. So creating peer mentors or bringing in outside vendors, like Imagination Theater is this improv group that addresses different topics. So one of them is Ease the Tease, which we bring to our school, and it addresses these kinds of topics. So students are able to see these scenarios, talk through it, even some are called up onto stage to experience what they would do differently and model it for the class or for the grade levels or whoever is they're watching, I think are some approaches to it. And then, of course, I can't read my own writing, it was bullying, and then what was the second part? Oh, discipline. And then with discipline, I sort of answered that part like you said. That comes with the restorative practices. So once again, meeting students where they're at, helping them identify how they caused that harm, how they can repair it, how they can move forward. Maybe that is researching the group that they were bullying and learning why this whole history of our Black students and just Black Americans, and then calling someone a name holds a lot more weight than you might at 10 years old even realize sometimes, right? So helping them understand by researching is huge too.
While as a school community we believe in and want to use restorative justice practices, the reality is that the reality is that it is clear we don't have the capacity or resources to fully do so in every situation where it might be needed. The result seems to be a lack of consequences and problematic behavior not being addressed. Some of it causes serious breaches of rules and trust. How will you navigate this challenge to ensure the school is a respectful and safe environment for everyone?
When I hear that, it makes me want to dig right into what is the root cause. Because it doesn't sound like it's the capacity as maybe a tier 1 approach. And that's just me guessing because this would come through in listening tours. So if it were a tier 1 approach concern, I think that's building up all of our staff, all of our teachers on what proactive practices look like, what restorative practices looks like in your classroom to maybe even eliminate some of these things before they happen. I also think that it's creating a clear system of when to move someone forward to the next person, because we want our restorative justice coach to be that person that's, building up people, building up teachers, so they're already doing it and not always the firefighter trying to put out the fires all the time. Because no one has the capacity, especially in a school this large, to do that if everyone thinks that that's only that one person's job. So I think it's really empowering all of our staff through restorative practices, through professional development. It could be conscious discipline, it could be responsive classroom, it could be whatever the school decides as a whole is the right approach. But I think that tier 1 discipline or just classroom management approach is a huge factor into what could change some of this, where it doesn't feel like one person is always in charge or feeling it. They should be there for the bigger ones that are either too time consuming because the teacher needs to teach, or just for the bigger ones that are outside of the teacher's realm. But I would look into the tier 1, I think would be my first step in this, and seeing how we can build up all of our staff.
Why do you want to be our principal, and specifically, what will you bring to the school community?
Simply, I would say I'm ready for this next step. If it's just talking about why do I want to be a principal. I really, in my heart, feel I'm ready to be in my next step as a leader. I really love coaching teachers, teacher leaders, building people up to be the strongest that they can be. But when asking why do I want to be your principal, as in Peirce's principal, I have been super picky. I've only applied to schools, one that are Ivy, because I really believe that it is best practice. But schools that I could see myself at. And this is a school that I could see myself at. I feel like I do reflect community members here. And I feel like I'm in it for what this school wants and what the school needs when it comes to all different voices heard, building up our students and their agency. I think those are all, they sound so exciting to me as something that this school is just like bubbling and ready to burst into this amazing school that can showcase all of this. And that even showed when I visited here when I worked in central office supporting your IB coordinators. This always was one of those like wow schools to look for when I was supporting all of the IB schools. You have amazing staff, you have amazing students. The systems and structures are there. This is not someone coming in who has to build from the ground up. This is someone who needs to come in and take you to the next level. And that's why I think that I would be excited to be your principal.
In cases of threats of gun violence towards Peirce, walk us through each step you would take to address these threats.
So it's always important first off to loop in our safety and security, our network safety and security, so the central office ones, because they are there for this type of situation. They are going to walk with me through the whole process. And approve communication before it goes out to anyone, because it only takes one misstep to put everything into chaos. So I think it's really important, and it's really a valuable resource that we have with our network safety and security who do come to schools to support things like this. But personally, like through that process, it's always taking it serious, no matter what it is. I think is really important. Student safety is first. That is just number one. And then from there, it is looping in, the police officers, if that's what is needed next. It really depends on like what the level is. If it's just a threat and it's deemed that it was just a threat and nothing else, there are certain processes we go, where it's, informing the community, maybe bringing more security or more police just to help people get back into that normal and feel okay again. Those are some of like the processes, the systems and structure part, but there's also the mindset and the social emotional that happen there too, right? For staff, for students and families, to process that and to feel safe again. So a part of that wraparound is then coming back and making sure that we are checking in with our teachers and our students, and hearing from them through talking circles or restorative circles, bringing in people from the Office of Social Emotional Learning, if that's what it gets to, where they are specialists in supporting like trauma-based practices, I think are all important when it comes to something this serious.
Okay. Peirce and CN High School are IB partnership schools. What plans do you have to foster and build a stronger relationship with CN?
Yeah, I'm currently at a IB partnership as well. So McPherson is partners with Amundsen. There are only about 5 or 6 formalized through the IB organization partnerships in the district. And Pearson Sen is definitely one to look at. I know when I was in central office that it was great watching the 2 MYB coordinators facilitate these days where teachers got to go to each other's schools, observe each other. But a part of that 30-day or the 90-day plan that I've shared is making those connections with neighboring high schools and their admin. So fostering that connection with Principal Dakers at Sen, I think is really important. And creating that open line of communication and collaboration and our own shared understanding of what an IB partnership entails, I think is really important. So I know that through central office, our MYD coordinators get 1 meeting a quarter together, where it's sort of like their day to strategically plan and figure out what they're doing as a partnership to grow. So that could be creating school visits where they go and the teachers see each other, the arts see each other within the 2 buildings, or the language and literacy see each other in the 2 buildings. And they're aligning whatever their focus is, from developing the approaches to learning and making sure it looks the same in both buildings, or it could be something more conceptual, like inquiry-based teaching and what inquiry looks like at the 2 buildings. So I think that creating that strategic plan and making sure everyone is aware of it is really important. And then ensuring that the compliance side with the IB is also there. So you're not just a partnership, you are a continuum, pre-K, the PYP through the diploma program as well. So making sure that we have those shared policies among the 2 buildings is really important, that our subject group overview is shared, because those are things that every 5 years the IB does ask for. So those are all just a few things that go into a successful partnership. Which really boils down to collaboration and open communication between the 2 schools.
As the principal, how would you engage collaboratively with the Peirce staff, students, and community while maintaining your leadership position?
I feel like relationships is my jam. Like that is what I like doing. I like making connections with staff. I like making connections with students and with our community members. So this is partly being visible, I think is really important. So when it comes to our students, that might be at lunch and recess, where I have that time to hear from them and hear what's the coolest thing now, because I'm not cool anymore. Or with staff, it just might be quick check-ins in the hallway to get to have that relationship with them and collab with them. So it could be even like someone whose wedding just happened last Friday and making sure that I'm checking with them, how did it go, and looking at their photos. Or it could be something more serious where we have to have a scheduled meeting time. We've also created beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year check-ins with all of our teachers. So whoever is on our caseload for evaluations, we're checking in with them formally, beginning, middle, and end of year. So that way we get to hear, and then the admin all comes back together to collaborate and share with each other. So we are all in touch with our teachers in the end. And then with the community, it's making sure that I am a part of those parent groups and sitting in and listening to what their goals are, working to strategically align all of those groups too. If we find that bullying, like was said a couple questions ago, is a big thing, that all of those groups with the different lenses, maybe that is just something we're all focused on as a part of our strategic plan for the year, and we're aligning together to make sure that we've all accomplished it from all different lenses.
Peirce is committed to support students as they grow as globally minded citizens. There is currently an attack on the accurate teaching of ethics student studies and the ways in which racism and colonialism impact our history and present times. The current political climate threatens those who teach truth, even in spite of written CPS policies that promote it. In what specific ways have you encouraged, supported, and required anti-racist teaching? How will you be a fierce advocate for anti-racist curriculum and instruction at Peirce?
I think first off, it's always going back to policy. Like you said in your question, it's already within CPS policy. So we know we're not doing something wrong if our district is already saying that it's okay. And that's always going to be a foundation, that if policy is there, we don't really have that line to negotiate on. When it comes to what I would do to advocate for, I think that comes back to listening first to see where we're at. I want to hear where we are at as a school from the different groups, and then create that plan together. If it's looking at a different curricula that can reflect our students more, that's making sure that all voices are a part of that decision making in all different lenses, so that we are getting a curricula that is anti-racist and looks like our students and is pushing students forward. It's even doing things like elevating our middle years community projects and our PYP exhibition, where we can focus on that as a lens. The SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So it's these goals they created with the United Nations to make a better world. And through these goals, one of them is about being anti-racist. So we could even take it through the lens of the SDGs and exploring that as a part of their passion project or a part of their PYP exhibition or their MYP community project. I think digging into the Black Student Success Plan through the district and bringing in individuals to lead professional development is something that is huge, so that it's not only me leading the charge, but all of our teachers are getting that learning and are able to push forward together. This all really comes down to a mindset shift in the end, right? So mindsets take time. It's really easy to make a change, but if teachers haven't changed their mindsets, then that change could go away, right? Once they have that buy-in and their mindset is there, it's really a lot easier to maintain and make it a sustainable practice. So I think things like that shared professional development are ways that we as a staff start to begin that mindset shift, so that we are pushing anti-racist approaches. And then I think this is something that I'm excited to continue to grow myself with. I am in no way an expert on this, and never have I said I am, so I would want to continue to grow and listen and learn as well, so that I can be that fierce advocate for all of our students.
What other criteria you would use to select your APs? Are there any important qualities or skills that you think will be essential to complement your own skills or gaps?
I think a part of the listening tour is learning about the current APs that are here, right? And that is a tricky situation, right? That's someone's job that we're talking about. So if this is someone who already is rocking and rolling, I wouldn't want to change that. I think it's really important that a part of it is reflective of our students as leaders in the building. So making sure that we have a diverse leadership team. I do know that your Hispanic population is 26%, so that's your second highest population or demographic here. So making sure that somewhere on that leadership team that there's that representation of that Spanish is spoken, I think is important. And leadership team doesn't have to be AP, but that is always a benefit. Also, I would want to just find someone that really has that instructional lens. It's not that I don't have it, I just am definitely a systems and structures kind of person, and I want someone to also have that real priority and focus on continuing to push us academically too, because that is such a huge part of a school. So I think making sure that whoever it is, that they really have a strong brain or a strong understanding of it, as well as that they're bought into the IP, right? If we can't model it as administrators, which I'm lucky, my principal used to be an MIP coordinator. So at my current school, like the IP is there, we all use it, we model it, so then our teachers are using and modeling. That then goes to our students and families, right? So I think there's a lot of different levels of representation that need to be considered. And then it also just comes down to making sure that it's someone that is a good fit for the staff and that they're going to get along with. And along doesn't mean they need to be best friends, but it does not mean that there needs to be someone creating a divide between admin and teachers, because we're all on the same team here, and that's to grow our students. So making sure that there's some voice in there as well, and it's not just me, but this is gonna affect everyone at the end.
What are your weaknesses?
Nothing, no. Like I said, I think that it's not a weakness, but it's definitely not my strength, my strongest thing, which is the academic lens, right? I was a music teacher. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I was an English teacher and that I know all of the ELA standards and that I can give you that experience. And that's why I think that is a criterion for an AP, is that they need to have that academic lens, because I bring such a school-wide lens to it. So I would say that is an area that I'm continuing to learn.
Thank you. That was it? We're gonna take a couple minutes, switch things around a little bit, get our next candidate, and then we'll switch rooms where Matt's gonna go upstairs with the staff. Thank you. We'll take a couple minutes and then we'll get started.
Oh my gosh, ending with a weakness question? Wow. Thank you, good to see you again.
You too.
As always, you impress me professionally. Is that your favorite color too?
Which number? And oh, come back. Don't go. Come back. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay, now what we got? Oh, and you think that's important? Is it? What can I ask you? Yeah.
I'm gonna move this guy. Hello. Yeah, we're gonna put them over there. Okay. I'll make an announcement about that.
Okay, and then do you want me to come back or we're just end?
No, we'll end.
Good luck. It was so nice meeting you. Okay.
Good.
Just met your lovely guy.
So, yeah, of course. The deck is ready. We have a. But it's okay because I think I'm gonna put this here, so when you're going through it.
But there's also a camera here, right?
That's right.
Not too close. You're gonna see too much of a close up. Is it okay if I listen?
There you go. Perfect. All right, this way, then you can use the. Yep.
Do you by any chance have the short link? So I was trying to kind of share the link if you want to follow along the presentation on like.
I don't think so. But we will have the presentation. We'll share it everywhere.
Okay.
That's a great question. Can you send me an email? I'm gonna try not to forget.
Yeah, that's good.
Sorry about that. So I think this thing's here. Just gotta put it there. And then so we do it, and then
It's predetermined questions.
People on YouTube were saying that it's hard to hear the photos. So I think this is gonna be helpful.
yeah, that's right. That's why I wanted to do that.
Can you move it back?
And then I'll move it back when
I
it's
will try to
ready.
be as loud as I can.
Yeah. Thank you. No, thank you. She's at the door. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Sorry about what?
No, she's moving around too
No, I
much.
just want to make sure
But she's out there by the door. So we can go.
Let's
How was the room? Because like we had a last minute.
I thought it was very nice. It was very personalized. I mean, it's a very nice space to, I know some Irish people. And I mean, I can see everything.
Yes, we do. So we're trying to. There's always something about the sound. We're moving that.
So yeah, I mean, I will do my best to project my voice.
That's it.
I will channel my drama teachers over advice.
All right. All right, everyone, we're going to get started in 1 minute. If you please sit down and take your seat. All right. Good evening, everyone. Again, we're pleased to welcome Luis Avila to Peirce. Luis is here to share his vision for Peirce and respond to a series of questions that reflect the priorities and values of our community. We're sharing a QR code that will take you to a feedback form. Please take time and scan that code. That will be very helpful for us. Thank you for helping, for your cooperation and helping us maintain a respectful and equitable process. So Luis will have about 15 minutes to speak and present his vision. We'll then ask specific questions that were pre-selected based on feedback from the community. With that, please join me in welcoming Luis Avila.
Yep, you're good to go. Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing today? I was told I need to speak a little bit louder, so I'm channeling my drama teacher's advice to me when I was in drama club. So those who are online, good evening. I will do my best to speak loud. So I want to welcome you to tonight's candidate forum. I'm Luis Avila. I am a prospective candidate for principal at Peirce. I'm happy to be here. Happy to share my vision for Peirce moving forward. Before I do that, I would like to share a little bit about myself. First and foremost, I am a father of 2 children, aged 5 and 2, Adrian and Santi. They are my little bundles of joy. They truly keep me on my feet. And of course, my wonderful wife, Claudia. She herself is also a CPS teacher. We truly come from a family of teachers. My mom is a teacher, and so is my sister-in-law, so we are truly a family of educators. So education is the family business. A little bit about myself, my background. I served as a teacher at Hagen Elementary School between the years of 2007 to 2014 before ascending to the assistant principal role from 2014 to 2021. Currently, I have been in Inter-American Magnet School since 2021 to present. During my time, I was able to, in my teaching and my administrative career, a lot of accomplishments. I did get 2 masters in curriculum and instruction with an ESL endorsement. I also achieved national board certification in early childhood while I was doing a master's program, and I got my educational leadership master's program completed as well in that span. A lot of accomplishments over the times. One of the pictures there, you see me that big check. That was me as a teacher. When I got one of my donor choose project, I got over 16 donor choose project funded for my classroom. So I was able to get a variety of things for my classroom. So I'm a pretty good grant writer. I want to make sure that our students have what they need. We also had different events that brought the community together, like a teacher night to help fundraising for our after school programming. We have a good, strong relationship with our Chicago Cubs. We're literally neighbors with the Chicago Cubs where Inter-American is. So one day we actually had Michael Bush stop by for Teacher Appreciation Week just to tell our teachers how much we appreciate them. And also the kids had a ball meeting him as well. So I don't want to toot my horn, but ever since he came, he really took off with those stats. So you're welcome, Michael Bush. My purpose statement as a candidate. My core values are deeply shaped for respect for family and education. I truly believe that every child merits a fair and quality education in our 21st century society. No matter where you come from, no matter what you do, whatever your background is, all students deserve a rightful education. With that being said, I'm committed to building a collaborative school culture where all stakeholders are a unit. We work together to provide the students with that 21st century education. It cannot just be one person doing everything. It cannot be a group of people doing everything. We need to work together. And that includes the students as well. We need student voice. We need all types of feedback to help shape and mold Peirce moving forward. That is how schools run successfully, when we work together. I like to think of a school as a family. Families argue, families don't agree sometimes, but we love each other at the end of the day. So that is my vision, one of my core values, like we need to look at it from a family standpoint. Because at the end of the day, when we make the critical decisions, it is about the students. It is about what they need for their futures, molding them to be tomorrow's leaders in a pluralistic world. So we need to ensure that their needs are being met, that we are providing opportunities where they are engaging in productive struggle, where we are tapping into the modalities of learning, and we are ensuring that they are prepared to be tomorrow's leaders. Some of my leadership accomplishments that I would like to share includes improvement of attendance. So when I started as an administrator, obviously I transitioned from teacher to administrator. That was always an overarching need, that our attendance was always below the 95% threshold as required by CPS. So we created an attendance initiative within our school to really promote that school-wide attendance. It included some embarrassing things on my part where I got pied in the face or got kicked to the wall as an incentive, but hey, if it made the kids come to school, so be it. We need to make sure our kids are coming to school because we don't want them to fall behind. We want our kids in school to be prepared them for tomorrow. I've also helped lead the co-created school rights and responsibilities currently in Inter-American. When I got there, it was pretty much a one-sided affair. where we're only getting adults' perspectives. And I said, no, we need to also get student perspective here. Student perspective is just as important because the ones who are expected to follow these rights and responsibilities are the students. So it's important that we value their opinion, that we value what they have to say as well as students of Inter-American. So I'm proud to say that, we're in phase 3, where we're the rollout now, where our student population, our student voice committee is going to be rolling out, what those rights and responsibilities look like from a school-wide lens. I've also oversaw and currently are leading learning cycles, again, aligned to our CIDP priorities. I want to ensure that the learning cycles that we engage to are productive, that they build teacher capacity and student capacity. I want to make sure that it's not just about, filling in time for professional. It's not about filling in time for professional development, but it's going to be work that's going to be something that's going to bring great benefit to the classroom. I've also established and provided staff with distributed leadership opportunities. I believe, yes, administrators have a lot of say and role within the school, but staff also has a lot of integral knowledge from their educational experiences, and I want to tap into that knowledge. I want to make sure that we're working collaboratively and in utilizing that knowledge to make and fortify our school even greater. I've also empowered our student body to lead advisory blocks and topics related to diversity and inclusion, topics within a school setting. One of our students so valiantly stood up saying, for Anti-Bullying Month, she wanted to do a presentation. I'm like, go for it, sweetie. Yes, you can. Like, we want to hear your voice because you're stating your truth, and this is what it is. So we need to empower our student bodies as well. I've trained students and staff in restorative justice practices as well. So in both the schools that I've been, we've really emphasized restorative practices. We want to ensure that these restorative practices build community. It becomes a reflective process, not so much like, thinking about the punitive, because punitive, kids are not going to learn from it all the time. Punitive is a last resort, honestly, and we need to be mindful of also the student code of conduct. But restorative practices bring a lot to the forefront. It not only has students reflect, but it also empowers students to build themselves as a person, their character, because those are the leaders of tomorrow. And what they actually do and reflect on is going to carry greater weight than what we say today. I'm also very proud of establishing an open door policy with all stakeholders. I'm a very welcoming, open person. Whatever concerns, whether it's staff, students, families, I'm always very welcome to have anyone come see me. I'm a very empathetic leader in that respect, especially if a parent or student or teacher has a concern. I want to make sure that I'm being empathetic, that I have a lending ear and listening ear, but also be solution oriented to come to the conclusion again to what's going to be the best thing for the students. And, in my time there, our school, Inter-American, has risen to 42nd best Chicago elementary school in Chicago, as stated in Chicago Magazine. I think we're all familiar with our mission and vision here at Peirce. Our mission is to guide students to take ownership of their learning through experiential engagement and reflective thinking. We want to make sure that the balance is being created within the curriculum from a lens of an academic, cultural, and social emotional needs, and that all members are committed to this. So here's where my vision comes from Peirce. There we go. My vision. All members of Peirce community are committed to growing a productive, globally minded citizens. Again, I want to honor the mission and vision we have at Peirce. I don't want to come in here and turn everything around. I want to honor the work that has been started. I want to honor that and ensure that we are working cohesively together. Through rigorous implementation of our primary and middle year programs, along with differentiated instruction, we are committed to addressing those needs of each learner. Again, the modalities of learning for each individual learner. Every child has a modality of learning, and sometimes multiple modalities of learning. We need to tap into that knowledge. We need to tap into that creativity. And that includes in areas such as play, in inquisitive thoughts. We need to ensure that students are given those opportunities within the classrooms. So I want to make sure that they're provided with those opportunities. And I want to make sure that we're also including culturally responsive curriculum in front of our students, where we open the doors of the world to our students, where we ensure that our students have the multifaceted lens to all facets of around the world. We need to increase that interconnectedness. So at Peirce, we want to make sure that we foster that curiosity, that critical thinking aspect, and empower students to take ownership of their learning. Students need that productive struggle. It's easier said than done. I know a lot of teachers, me being a former teacher, it's hard to let that go, but sometimes students need to struggle with it. But the teacher's there. The teacher's there to give them the tools and the resources to help them problem solve, to find the solution. Students need those experiences. We need to embrace diversity and inclusion as strengths, ensuring every voice is valued and heard. That is so crucial in today's pluralistic world. We need to ensure that every voice is being heard, that we are meeting the needs of all students in different ways. Differentiated instruction is to support those individual modalities of learning, promoting that global citizenship, encouraging students to understand and respect those multiple perspectives, while becoming responsible, compassionate leaders, and of course, engaging our families and staff as collaborative partners to create a supportive and a nurturing environment. We have to do it together. As a family, we need to work on it together. That is how a school is successful, if we work together. We cultivate a dynamic community where students are equipped not only with the knowledge and skill sets, but we're building the character and the confidence that students are going to need for tomorrow. We live in difficult times, and now more than ever, our students need to be trained with that character and that confidence to be advocates for themselves. So that is what my pledge to you as a prospective principal for Peirce. That I want to ensure that that character, that confidence, and those knowledge and skills are being given, those opportunities, those learning opportunities, those opportunities that a lot of children around the world wish they had. I want to give that to them. This is a very powerful quote from Stephen Covey. Leadership is communicating to people their worth and potential, so clearly they come to see it in themselves. Each and every one of you here, every one of you possesses a different type of leadership role. Whether it's in different facets, even in students, you all possess that. We all need to work together to tap that potential. I'm also a big advocate of continuous improvement cycles. So my mantra, when I'm looking at a situation, I want to be solutions oriented. So I want to make sure we identify, we plan and execute and review what we're doing to address any need that may arise, whether it's through our CIWP or whether it's through any school-wide initiative that we're enacting. We want to ensure that continuous improvement cycle, that it never stops, that we're always looking ourselves to make ourselves better. Just because we've accomplished this one factor, doesn't mean we stop. We gotta keep going. We gotta keep going better. We gotta keep always trying to push the threshold of as far as we can to ensure that we get to an achievement level, and that we also get our students to from a social emotional lens, to a level of responsiveness to one another, a respectful, a safe, and collaborative environment. I know this will be shared with you. In this presentation, I've actually laid out my 30, 60, 90-day plan, which I do have some slides that I'm going to share with you in a few minutes. That is my layout for my plan for Peirce in my first 30, 60, 90 days. It reflects a building community values, continuous learning. So again, I don't want to come in here and turn everything upside down. We're going to start from scratch. No, I want to honor the work that our stakeholders have begun as well, but I also want to evaluate where we stand. How can we fortify those initiatives? How can we make ourselves better as a school so we can empower all those staff and students to grow together as outlined in our school mission and vision? So for the first 30 days, I really want to engage stakeholders, parents, staff, students. I want that feedback. I want to ensure that this is completed with fidelity. I want to make sure that parents and community members are also aware of my open door policy. And I want to establish that line of communication. I'm sure you have already that established here at Peirce, but I want to ensure that it's being done with fidelity through our newsletters, any announcements that need to be made, anything that you need to be aware of. I want to make sure there is that chain of command where you're receiving the information that is vital to your child's success and safety as well. Progress is slow in building relationships, but it's needed. It's needed to ensure a successful campaign with any initiative that we take on. Once feedback has been collected, we've done a lot of analysis, including in this analysis, I also want to conduct, audits, internal audits for our budgeting. I want to do a building infrastructure auditing as well to see the needs of our building infrastructure. So there's a lot of layers that are intertwined into this. But again, the end result is what the students need and how we can get it to them. Ongoing communication structures continue to be established and completed with fidelity, having that open door policy always there, and that goal setting has taken place, which again, I know that it's already taken place, especially with the conclusion of our CIWP priorities. We want to make sure that we are on track to fulfill those priorities. In the first 90 days, those initiatives continue to be rolled out. School level meetings are occurring consistently in alignment with our CIWP priorities, the ongoing communication, and that established open door policy. Okay, there we go. 4-year plan. So besides sharing my vision for Peirce, entering as principal, I also want to share my 4-year plan. A lot of it has to do with initiatives already taking place. I want to ensure that we honor those initiatives and that we also try to fortify them. Continuous learning cycles. So again, I want our learning cycles to be of value for our teachers and our students. I want to ensure what we implement is going to carry great weight and cause effective movement forward, not just in our academic data, but also with many factors. Like, I want students to feel connected. I looked at the data too, and there are a lot of the students, especially from an academic lens, we still need to work on that connectedness amongst students, especially the students and teachers. So we want to ensure that we build those structures. For example, in my current school at Inter-American, we work a lot on student discourse. We want our students talking. We don't want it to be a style of the teacher lectures the students, and sometimes they talk to each other, turn and talk. We want to make sure that there is that concurrent student discourse happening on a daily basis. Because students learn from each other. They don't just learn from the teacher, they learn from one another. They build each other up. And that's what it should be. So through these continuous learning cycles, we want to make sure that the initiatives outlined are collaborative, obviously data-driven, that it moves our school forward with our initiatives. I know in our current CIWP, MTSS, rigorous tasks, student voice are very key issues at the heart of the issue. So we want to make sure that we're implementing initiatives of that nature to ensure that we're moving our school forward with the overarching needs as identified through the data points. Fortifying the Student Voice Steering Committee, ensuring that students have the proper structures in place to have their voices heard. Again, student voice is so crucial, especially at my school currently right now. When I first started there and Cultivate came out, our student voice was at 49. That was really low. But then we started implementing structures where we gave students those opportunities to engage in student voice. We had our student voice committee established. We gave students, the ability to share feedback about certain school initiatives. And now we're at 76. And that doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. But as long as we work together to ensure that those structures are set in place, where it's done with fidelity, and to ensure that it's inclusive, and that those policies, that non-negotiable is set, and we ensure that it's put in place. I also want us to celebrate our very diverse community. In collaboration with our planning and culture team and our student voice and student committee, we want to make sure that we're celebrating our culture. Wherever you come from, whatever your belief systems are, no matter what it is, I want to ensure that we celebrate our student body, we celebrate our beliefs, and that it's visible throughout the year, not just when, oh, it's Hispanic Heritage Month. No, I want that to be concurrent throughout the year. And that also includes with culturally responsive curriculum. I want to ensure that our curriculum now is culturally responsive. Because believe it or not, when we have culturally responsive curriculum put in place, that's going to tap into students' background knowledge. Tapping into students' background knowledge is going to open opportunities for them to share their experiences, and it's going to also open the world to so many things for students, to our pluralistic world. And we want to ensure that those, opportunities are given, that we do dismantle any systemic barriers that may be in place to ensure that it takes place consistently. Why would I be an exceptional fit for Peirce? I've always had an excellent exceptional rapport with LSC stakeholders. Ask anybody, no matter what your concern is, I'm always going to try to find a time or day, even if it's not at that moment or instance, to try to make that conversation happen. I want to make sure that I'm available to you as parent stakeholders as well. Should any concerns that you have or even ideas that you have, I welcome it. I think that's very crucial. I will focus on ensuring that restorative practices are being set forth because they need to be proactively used because we're repairing harm and building community and promoting empathy. Again, this is about building character. Punishing someone is not just about, okay, you're punished for this. Will there be logistical consequences? Perhaps, depending on the situation. But at the end of the day, I want students to also reflect on their behavior. I want to make sure that their character is being built up because that conflict resolution, that ability, that's a life skill. They're going to need to have that, as a life skill that they're going to carry with for the rest of their lives. I want to ensure, as I stated earlier, that our community feels like a family, where we work together. We may disagree sometimes, but at the end of the day, we're going to come back. At the end of the day, it's about the students. What is best for our students moving forward? I'm supportive and empathetic to the needs of all, always willing to lend a helping hand and a listening ear. I'm solution-oriented and flexible to the needs of all stakeholders. And I also have an open door policy. Oh. There we go. As a neighborhood school, I want to honor also what we stand for as Peirce, to ensure that we continue to forge those community values in early childhood innovation, to ensure the proper development of the whole child is in place in a pluralistic society. I want to ensure that we provide that 21st century education to our students. We want to make sure that they engage in this concept of productive struggle, that they are able, well, it might not be comforting to hear that word productive struggle, but it's something beneficial because they're going to become problem solvers, critical thinkers. They're going to be able to rationalize and even work together to problem solve. I want to forge a culture where all students feel seen, respected, and heard. This is a non-negotiable for my leadership. Everyone needs to be heard. Everyone needs to be seen. That's a non-negotiable, and I want to ensure that all students are being heard and respected. And in the final analysis, we are working together as a team to ensure that our student body receives a quality 21st century education and all experience that will forge tomorrow's leaders. Thank you. That's just my email. If you have any additional questions, take a picture and send me an email.
You can sit down. Give you a couple minutes. You're good. You're good. Perfect. I see your face.
You know what?
So he just pointed at me. I was telling him, like, I better make sure not to zoom in too much.
All right. We're gonna go now through the questions that were prepared. The first question, how do you plan to manage staffing and scheduling to effectively support our diverse learners, as well as coordinate IEP and 504 meetings and student meetings?
First and foremost, obviously, our diverse learner population is very crucial to our student body. Like, we want to ensure that their IEPs are being met with fidelity. In my experience with scheduling, a lot of the scheduling has to revolve first and foremost with special education scheduling. We want to make sure that that is scheduled first to ensure fidelity with it for IEPs. So for example, we also want to ensure that there is a proper balance throughout the classrooms. We need to ensure that we're following the 30% threshold as stated by ISB, that we're not in violation of that 30% threshold within each classroom. So I don't want to have students all put into one classroom, our LRE1 or LRE2 students. I want to ensure that there is a proper balance, because we also have to take into account if there are any students that might be on that threshold of, well, they might need special education services. We have to bear that in mind as well. We have to bear in mind that when we're scheduling, we're doing it in a way that is equitable to all students. So when it comes to our diverse learner populations, we want to ensure that they're scheduled in such a way where their needs are scheduled. We want to make sure that the master schedule follows the special education schedule to ensure that those services are being met with fidelity.
At Peirce, we have a significant LGBTQIA+, including trans and non-binary, student population and community. How would you handle members of the school community who refuse to accept or respect students for who they are?
As I stated in my presentation, I want all students to feel included, to feel safe and supported, no matter what their beliefs, no matter what, period. That is a non-negotiable for my leadership. I know a lot of community members may have some reservations, but like I said, I'm willing to listen, but at the end of the day, I'm going to initiate CPS protocol. I'm going to follow CPS protocol and ensure that all populations, including our LGBTQ population, that they feel included, that they feel in a safe and supportive environment. And that's part of that student voice committee as well. We want to ensure that all populations are being heard and feel included. Because at the end of the day, we need to be supportive of students' choices. We cannot force a child to do otherwise. Us as adults as well, like, we all have a choice. So that's what I would say to anyone who might be resistant of those policies. Because again, we need to be, one, inclusive and supportive no matter what you believe or stand for. That is at the forefront in any school. Students need to feel safe and secure, and I will make sure that that is being done with fidelity. Again, I will listen, I welcome feedback, but at the same time, I'm gonna say, I'm going to follow those CPS protocols. I'm going to follow what the students need, and and be respectful of their needs as well.
How will you work to close academic gaps for students who've experienced systematic inequality?
Besides student voice, which I think is very crucial, we really need to tap into students' modalities of learning, as I mentioned in my presentation. There's, in my experience as an educator and also working in a bilingual and a dual language setting, such as Inter-American, some of the inequalities that we noted were, social economic inequalities, language barriers that might prevent them from getting them to where they need to be, especially if you're an English learner, your first native language is English. and you're trying to learn Spanish. So providing them those opportunities, to succeed. Like, I really am a firm believer at looking at our student quality index and prioritizing any group that might be, suffering any academic deficiencies, and prioritizing that those groups get any additional academic supports in place. They have first priority. Again, I want to be mindful to their needs. I want to be mindful to their academic and social emotional needs, as well as making sure that we're providing them all the tools and the resources. And let alone it also comes with the factor of the professional development amongst our staff. What are we doing as a staff too to provide those resources on a daily basis? What strategies are we implementing as well? I'm ensuring that MTSS protocols are being taken place, that small group interventions are taking place as well. Because again, it's about the student. We want to make sure that the whole child's needs are being addressed, ensuring that those MTSS processes are being done with fidelity.
That's me, sorry. That was. How will you support immigrant families, especially families who may be undocumented? Specifically, how will you ensure that Peirce remains a safe refuge for students and families in fear of persecution by government officials?
First and foremost, I want to reassure all families that this will be a safe haven for anybody. Obviously, we live in an unstable time right now, and there are a lot of fears. But I want to reassure again that we will do our best to ensure that safe haven. We will follow CPS protocol because we will protect our families. We will ensure that nobody is coming here on school grounds to check on any of those families, because again, we need to ensure that this is a space for learning. We need to ensure that our sanctuary committee is putting those things into place. Right now, for example, we're ensuring, we're being very proactive at Inter-American. We're providing them the resources that undocumented families may need, but also ensuring that they feel safe when they come to school. So we're looking with local community members as well as our Friends of Group. We've established a structure in place where, our Kiss and Go is already set in place, because we have families from all over the city. We don't just we're not a neighborhood school. We're a selective enrollment school. So we have families making that trek, risking it to come out. And we're ensuring that when they get here, that they are safe. Whether they're taking the CTA, whether they're taking the Kiss and Go option. Right now, we don't have transportation. We're a hub stop program designated for December. So right now, we're putting into place, what parents need to know. These are your rights. This is what you should know. We are doing our best, and that's what I would do to educate our parent population. These are your rights. But also, I want parents, families, students to feel safe. That this is a safe haven for our students and our immigrant families.
What have you done in the past for consequences for bad behavior?
In regards to that behavior, again, it varies by the student code of conduct. So I've always taken a restorative approach in my time as an administrator. My first year is when I was trained in restorative practices, and I've carried that with a badge of honor, ensuring that our staff also carries that as well, because we need to have our students become reflective in the choices that they make. Punishing a student is easier said than done, and depending on the nature of the behavior, obviously, we'll have to follow the code of conduct. We'll have to consult what are the natural consequences for that certain behavior. If it's behaviors that are not consistent, obviously, I would want to make sure that restorative practices and conversations are taking place. If there's conflict among students, that peace circles are implemented. I want to make sure that our staff, especially our social workers, or social work staff and our counseling staff, are well equipped with those resources and the tools to engage students in those peace circles. I also want to ensure that our teachers as well continue to fortify their restorative practices, implementing them, because at the forefront, they see the students on a daily basis. I don't want it to become a thing where I've seen in the past where a lot of teachers will send a student, they got out of their seat because they were grabbing a supply without permission. We have to be rational too in how we make decisions when it comes to certain behavioral issues. We just can't send a student to the office for every little thing. We have to be rational. We have to be wise and exercise with caution. I want students to learn from bad behavior. I want them to learn conflict resolution. And again, depending on the nature and the severity, which, there have been times where I've been involved in situations where we had to take a privilege away from a student. But it has to be an extreme circumstance and a pattern of behavior. Again, and if there is a pattern of behavior, I want to make sure that those students are being supported as well. If they're being referred to our behavioral health team and being given the resources that they need to correct this behavior. If interventions are being inputted in place for those students that might have concurrent behavioral issues. I want to make sure that those are set in place to ensure that that student is supported as well as a way to de-escalate those behaviors on a daily basis.
How will you handle bullying and disciplinary issues at the school?
I will always be cognizant of the student code of conduct, ensuring that we are following the proper protocols, especially when it comes to bullying. When it comes to bullying, we need to make sure that it meets the 4 criteria of bullying. So if a parent or a staff member, anybody places a bullying complaint, we need to receive that in writing. And we also have to ensure that during the course of the investigation that due process takes place and that it meets the 4 criteria. Should bullying be substantiated, we want to ensure that the proper consequences, natural consequences are put into place, again, in accordance with the student code of conduct. In terms of bad behavior in general, again, we also have to have that lens of a restorative nature. We also, depending on the nature and the severity, we also have to reflect and see if this is a student that is a one-time offender or has a number of offenses or a number of violations per the student code of conduct, that what supports are being given to them. That yes, obviously there are going to be consequences, but at the same time, that we ensure that we are meeting their needs too. If they're being referred to our behavioral health team and implementing and ensuring that interventions are being placed for those students to ensure as a way to de-escalate those behaviors.
While as a school community we believe in and want to use restorative justice practices, the reality is that it's clear we don't have the capacity or resources to fully do so in every situation where it might be needed. The result seems to be a lack of consequences and problematic behavior not being addressed. Some of it serious breaches of rules and trust. How will we navigate this challenge to ensure the school is a respectful and safe environment for everyone?
First and foremost, especially when challenging behaviors come, I know that restorative practices, one of the big disadvantages from a lens, whether it's staff or parent lens, could be the fidelity of it. Because I think first and foremost, at the forefront, teachers need to ensure that that is being done. Because again, they see the students on a daily basis. They need to ensure that, especially in those beginning of the year, that those first weeks, those routines and structures are established. We also need to ensure that as a school community, that we have school-wide structures in place. School-wide structures are going to allow a basis for students to, as peer students, this is what we follow. This is how we behave at recess. This is how we behave at lunch. This is how we behave in the hallway or in our classroom. Those school-wide expectations are very crucial to establish a positive working community, especially a collaborative community among students themselves. We want to promote conflict resolution. And again, I understand that in every situation, depending on the nature of the behavior, obviously, any behavioral situation, there's going to be a chain of command. That would be my vision, like ensuring that we have a flow chart as a school that ensures that if a behavioral situation does occur, that it is reported and that chain of command is followed, that flow chart is followed to ensure that one, communication with the parent takes place. Number two, conversations with all parties involved takes place. We have to ensure that due process takes place. And we also need to ensure that those consequences are done with fidelity in a timely manner. If we wait, then what's the point? We need to ensure that it is done within a timely manner. And then yes, there will be facets of restorative practices within those conversations as well, even if it is, let's say, a punitive consequence that may arise. Again, we need to be mindful if this is a situation where it's about, a huge violation of the student code of conduct, we want to ensure that we're following that policy. And then we also have to identify a pattern of behavior amongst the student as well. Because if a student is concurrently misbehaving, there needs to be a plan and interventions put into place for that student.
Why do you want to be our principal? And specifically, what will you bring to the school community?
When I started researching Peirce, I was very captivated by your school's mission and vision. I really, truly believe and have believed that throughout my educational career, which I'm on year 18 right now. And to the day, I really, truly believe that our students need to become the leaders of tomorrow, the critical thinkers, providing them those opportunities to engage in that productive struggle. I really resonated with that mission and vision. I really think that that's something that we need to continue to carry as a Peirce community. And I want to bring the joy. I want to bring a joyful and collaborative culture to Peirce. That's what I'm about. Wherever I've been, you can ask anybody. I've always come to be an empathetic leader that brings joy. I remember when I got to Inter-American, there was a lot of strife when I first got there, especially amongst there was a lot of admin turnover, and you're like, well, it's just another person, a revolving door. I've been there 5 years, longer than an AAP they've had in the last 10 years. And I can honestly say that when I told them that I was actually applying for principal position, they're like, please don't go. And that just speaks volumes of the type of leader that I am. That I am an empathetic leader that is going to meet the needs of students and staff and community members. That again, at the end of the day, we are here for the students. We are here to meet the needs of our students moving forward and to ensure that they receive the quality education that they need. So your mission and vision and my desire to make a better world, because I truly feel that Peirce can go beyond, we can soar high. And by working together collaboratively as a family, we can do anything.
In cases of threats or gun violence towards Peirce, walk us through each step you would take to address these threats.
First and foremost, obviously, we want to ensure that there is not an ongoing threat. That current moment, we need to ensure that safety and security is called immediately to notify them of a threat. That we ensure that if there is a threat, such as there's a weapon on site, to ensure that we eliminate the threat in the sense of ensuring that we confirm that there is no weapons within the school building, and follow up with safety and security as to what steps that we need to take as a school, again, depending on the nature of the threat. Will it require a soft lockdown or a hard lockdown? Has there been a direct threat? Like obviously ensuring that child is safe, the one that's receiving that threat. And we want to make sure too that the one that was making the threat to the nature of that threat as well. So obviously ensuring that we ensure that students are safe first and foremost. That's first and foremost the most important thing. And we also want to ensure that all the necessary parties are included, and that includes our network, ensuring, we receive this threat, if you can please, get us the resources that we need to help support us in this, but also making sure that the threat is not, active, and ensuring that everyone in the school is safe. We want to make sure that the threat is removed immediately and, investigated immediately and with fidelity, and that all parties involved are contacted, and that includes the parents as well, to notify them of all those threats that may have been made.
No.
Is the microphone still on? I just want to make sure.
Peirce and CN High School are IB partnership schools. What plans do you have to foster and build a stronger relationship with CN?
I know Peirce has had that relationship with SEN for many years now, and I want to ensure that that relationship is ongoing. I want to ensure that that is a strong partnership. Whatever initiatives that we as peers are doing, we want to make sure that we're making SEN aware of what we are doing as a school. So that partnership, because, a lot of these students may go to SEN. And because of that, we want to ensure that we have that partnership where we are making sure that students are tracked in such a way that when they get to high school, they have the skill sets and needs already that they are required for high school, whether that's academic, social, emotional. We need to make partners in that. What they're doing with their character education, what we're doing, we need to be in line with that. That's one of the first things I would do as principal, is engage in those conversations with the SEN administration to ensure that we are on the same page with our initiatives, to ensure that the needs that, the overarching needs that they are noticing too at their respective school, that we can use that also as a formula to prepare our students for that transition from elementary to high school.
As the principal, how would you engage collaboratively with the peer staff, students, and community while maintaining your leadership position?
Again, I want to ensure when proper, and obviously give opportunities, whether it's a town hall meeting, a student meeting, staff meeting, whatever the nature of the meeting might be, I want to make sure voice is being heard, especially from a student lens, because that is very crucial and needed. As I mentioned earlier, when I first got to Inter-American, student voice was a non-factor. And now, 5 years later, it is a factor. And we want to make sure that that feedback that students are giving, that we're hearing what students are saying. We want all stakeholder feedback to be heard. At the end of the day, we want to ensure when any decision and initiative is enacted, and out of respect to one another, that it is done for the best of the student needs. That's what we're here for. We're here for the students. We are not here, to say, we're right about this, we want this. We need to hear each other out. We need to listen to each other, talk to each other, and give our purpose. But at the end of the day, we need to come collectively together and decide what is best for our students moving forward. Because we're here for the kids. We're here for the students, and we need to prepare them to be tomorrow's leaders. And that, again, that's my non-negotiable. I want to make sure that all students' needs are being met. It's about the students. It's like, all of it, like even here, I mentioned when I spoke with the teachers earlier, like we're like second parents to the students. We're like a second family. We want to make sure they feel safe, included, and that we are listening to them as well, and ensuring that we're providing them what they need.
Peirce is committed to support students as they grow as globally minded citizens. There is currently an attack on the accurate teaching of ethnic studies and the ways in which racism and colonialism impact our history and present times. The current political climate threatens those who teach truth, even in spite of written CPS policies that promote it. In what specific ways have you encouraged, supported, and required anti-racist teaching? How will you be a fierce advocate for anti-racist curriculum and instruction at Peirce?
I want to ensure first and foremost that we're adhering to CPS policy, especially ensuring that our anti-racism policy is set and in place, because there is no place for it here in any school for that nature. We need to be respectful to one another. We need to respect all, no matter where you're from, your belief systems. We need to be respectful to one another, first and foremost. I want to make sure that we continue encouraging, that our curriculum is culturally responsive and that we're teaching the truth, that we're teaching our kids these differing perspectives. Because despite the political climate, despite what is being said right now, we need to prepare our students to be globally minded citizens. One of the things that I want to first do as principal is ensure that our curriculum is culturally responsive to the students' needs, to various backgrounds, to various, it's very important that students know those different backgrounds, because that is how we become lifelong learners and pluralists, and especially in the pluralistic world, that we become the leaders of tomorrow. We want to make sure that students have all varying opinions and all varying visions, because again, if we close it off to them, then what's the point of them coming to school? Like, we need to ensure that they're being taught what our history, whether American history, ancient civilization, no matter what it is, we need to ensure